To say I'm excited is an understatement. I had the chance to talk to our team today in the locker room, which was just a blast in this new position. Again, I thank them for the support over these last few days. Over these last few days, I've had the opportunity to talk to so many people in the women's college hockey game and just women's hockey in general. And the one thing that became so evident to me, and just a reminder for me that I had mentioned to our players as well this morning, but Gopher women's hockey was really the program that set the standard for what women's college hockey is today across the country. And we don't take that lightly. It's our job to build upon that legacy that people like Laura Halderson and Frosty and really all the Gopher greats that wore the M and who came before this new era of Gopher hockey, put forth in front of us. I want to be clear on one thing. This is not a complete overhaul. This is more of a reboot, I'd say. It's a fresh voice with fresh expectations. And we're close, and we have been close. But unfortunately, obviously, as you know, close isn't what we want here at Minnesota. And there's some changes that have to be made to make sure that we get over the hump. I told our players this morning, but we have to raise our level of compete and intensity. We have to raise our level of discipline and accountability. And we need to have that unwavering belief that this is truly the best place to play college hockey in the country, because it is. I said this to our players this morning as well, but if we want to be champions, we need to start acting like champions, practicing like champions, and training like champions. And I just have full faith and belief that this group is going to get that job done starting today, really. Again, I can't tell you enough how excited I'm to be the next head coach of Gopher Women's Hockey, and for all your guys' support.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now start with the question session of this. So if you have a question, go ahead. John, go ahead.
Greg, what you were here as Ohio State and Wisconsin kind of moved past you a little bit. What do you see as the biggest difference between the Gophers right now and those two programs?
Yeah, I think a couple things. This came up throughout the week as well, but both those two programs have clear identities to me. Wisconsin's identity currently right now, they have 4 players just won a gold medal on the U.S. team, and really they outskill people. They have talent. They have more talent than the majority of the rosters across the country right now, and we can humbly admit that about ourselves too. Ohio State has a clear identity as well, and their identity is how they play. They're aggressive. They suffocate you. They're in your face. They're on the edge, right to the edge, sometimes going over the edge, but you just know exactly what you're going to get every time you play against a team like that. I feel like that's been something that we're missing right now, is just a clear identity of who we are and what we're about as a team. And I think that's where you see the inconsistencies over the last few years. And you can see us, we beat Wisconsin, we split with Wisconsin this year, we beat Ohio State this year, but just the level of consistency hasn't been there as we know it should be.
Greg, how do you view your first opportunity at this level is at a program that has arguably been the 3rd best in the country and was judged that wasn't enough?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I love it. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm a competitor. I like to win at everything I do, and this is no different. So, I have a pretty vast and expansive experience and just history of where I've coached different levels across multiple genders, across multiple divisions, and so on. And I think for me, I've been in programs where we've needed to rebuild. I've been in programs where they've had a ton of success, and I was trying to take it to the next level. And I just view this as another opportunity. I think just like our players that we recruit, they want to be here because we want to be the best in the country, and I'm no different as a coach.
Greg, what kind of identity do you want from this team?
Yeah, it's a great question. When you think of Gopher women's hockey players just in general, right, you think of fast, skilled, ton of depth. That's not going to change, right? That's not going to change. I think what we need to do is we need to have a little bit more of an edge to how we're playing. We got to have structure with how we're playing. To me, one of the greatest compliments is when all of you guys come and watch us play, you know what we're doing. You know how we play, you know what we're doing, and if another team's going to beat us at that game, then that's on us as coaches to adjust our style to combat that. But we're going to be fast, we're going to be in your face. When we don't have the puck, we're going to make sure that we're in spots so we can get that puck back as fast as we can. But it's just going to be a level of consistency and intensity at how we do things, and it's probably not going to be comfortable at times for our players. But we know that what they want and what we want as a program is championships, and in order to do that, that's what it's going to have to be.
So you want to play more like Ohio State does?
I'd say yeah, a little edge like they bring.
During the interview process, what were the kind of themes you were picking up from people talking to you about the position, and what they want to learn from you?
I think a lot of these questions are being asked right now. How Wisconsin, Ohio State, it's no secret what they've done these last handful of years. Why are we not at the same level as them as far as being in championship games and winning national championships and so on? And how am I going to be different? What's going to be different? I think a huge advantage that I have is that I was part of this staff for 3 years, but I haven't been on this staff for 20 years, right? So I've been able to see all of the wonderful things that Coach Frost has done, that just, again, the storied history and the traditions, the pride in Minnesota women's hockey. But again, I haven't been here for 20 years. So I've also had a first front row seat at the things that I feel like could be done differently or could be done to bring that consistency to what we're looking for, or to get back over that hump and start really truly competing with the Ohio States and Wisconsin at that championship level.
Is there something unique about you that allows you to overcome that challenge?
Yeah, I think I have a blend of being a player's coach, where I'm the first person there that's giving fist bumps when they're doing something great, and I also think that I have part of that blend is someone that can put my thumb on them and keep my thumb on them and motivate them, and have those constructive conversations, those hard conversations, show them on video things that we're seeing or that I'm seeing that maybe aren't up to standard or up to par with what we need to do. Again, I keep using the word bite or edge, but I think that's just kind of that blend that I have a little edge and I have that little bite, but also being that player's coach that's kind of been part of this culture for such a long time.
Greg, how do you see your recruiting philosophy changing?
Yeah, I don't know that it'll change a ton. I think a couple things that pop up in my head right now is it's conversation. So, typically we're always trying to find the best, the elite of the elite. Kind of quote unquote, our fourth line is players that were first line players their entire lives, and now they just happen to be fourth line players because they're at Minnesota. Is there something to be said about having players that are true? Like, I'm going to skate out of my boots because that's what I do and that's what I've done my entire life. I don't know that answer right this second. I think that's conversation for me and my staff as we move forward with our recruiting. But I can tell you this, we love our recruits for 2026, the ones that are coming in this fall. We love our 2027 recruits and those commits. In our conversations throughout this past week, through this coaching change, there's been zero waiver from those players that are committed to coming to us. And like I said, we're super excited about who they are and what they bring to our team.
Did it feel to you like Ohio State, to bring these guys up again? Because when I covered them not too long ago, and when you saw them play at their best, you were kind of like, wow. Were they the first team to really start playing that way?
So great question. I've been on the women's side for 3 years, right? So for 3 years that I've been here, they've played like that. And they're different than other teams, for sure. They are different from other teams. I think, you saw this year when we played and we beat them here at home, we were able to punch them in the mouth as well, and they didn't like that either, right? So, we just got to be one of those teams that when teams come to play us, whether it's on our home soil or on the road, that when they're done with us, I don't want to play those guys again. Like, that was a tough game.
The women's game seems to be changing quite a bit. Is your experience in all kinds of hockey help give you a unique piece to this?
Yeah, I think so. I'm biased, of course, but I think so. Like I said, I have an expansive background. I spent 16 years on the men's side before being here. You look at the PWHL and just the growth, the Olympics this past winter, like the growth of female, it might be the best it's ever been as far as coming into the women's game and just seeing it growing, right? Our numbers at the youth level are incredible right now. My two daughters play, and you just see we're at the rink each week at Bloomington, and all three rinks are full for multiple hours of all high-level female hockey players. It's incredible. At the PWHL level right now, you see some of their head coaches coming from the men's pro side too. And it's not that the men's coaches are better than the coach that have been on the women's side the entire time. I think it's just I think people are appreciating the women's game more and more, and you're going to start to see some coaches start to transition over to that side, kind of like I did.
You mentioned Bob Motzko and Brad Frost's influence.
Yeah.
Who else influenced you in hockey, even from growing up?
Yeah, my dad for sure. So I grew up in California actually, and where hockey wasn't huge. It's kind of right when Wayne Gretzky got there in the Wayne Gretzky era. And my dad, I think I can say this, but he didn't start playing hockey until he was in his 30s, but fell in love with it. And he I mean, he taught me and my brother how to play, right? Rollerblading nonstop and stick handling and shooting. And I mean, I wouldn't be here without him, right? Just from your playing background and all that. So he's a huge influence. My brother's 5 years older than me, was a much better hockey player than I was. Always looked up to him as a player. He's coached with me in the past. He was a huge influence as well. But I think you take things, everywhere you go and everywhere you coach with and for. You take little things that they do really well, things that you would maybe do differently, and you try to adapt it to your style when you're the head coach. And it's really no different in this situation with those two.
Where does Boom come from?
Good question. So I have, again, an older brother. I also have an older sister, so 5 and 7 years older. And when my mom was pregnant with me, they called me Boom Boom, and it's stuck ever since. It just shortened to Boom.
Greg, what's your favorite part of coaching?
The relationships, the people, being able to have that every Friday, Saturday. It feels like you're playing a game again, even though you're just standing behind the bench and just throwing them over the boards, but you still get in that atmosphere. Standing on the bench, hearing the anthem never gets old. Walking out to the bench and looking at the crowd for the first time each day never gets old. And I would say, honestly, just the strategizing, trying to find ways to do what we're talking about right now, trying to find ways to compete with the top teams. Once you get to the top, trying to find ways to stay at the top, because now you know that you're the hunted. But it's so corny and cliche, but when you're working in hockey, like, it doesn't feel like you're working. I mean, it's actually pretty incredible that we get to do this for a living.
Greg, how did you find out that Frosty wasn't coming back, and were you surprised?
Yeah, we knew throughout the year that this was his last year on his contract, and we knew that we struggled a little bit. The Olympics took a lot out of us this year for one reason or another. I think everyone's got different opinions on why and how come that happened, but it's the reality of what happened. When we lost that last game against Northeastern in the NCAA quarters, and we actually played a really good game in that game. It just fell short on the wrong side of things. But just giving Frosty a hug after that game, and it just had a feeling like this might be the last one for him. I don't think anyone hoped that it would happen. I think we were all still shocked that it happened. But we had conversations leading up to it that this might be the case.
Mark, what led you to Boom? What made him the guy?
Well, it was interesting when we started the process, and Travis Cameron, who's standing right behind you, who kind of led the search with me in our search committee. One name kept coming up, and again, when we talked with people with USA Women's Hockey, that program, when we talked to people at the WCHA, other coaches across the country, alumni, the name that kept coming up was Boom. And I had the same question: how did he get the nickname Boom? But that name kept coming up, and when you see him talk, I hope you see he's competitive, and I felt like we need a sense of urgency with our women's hockey program. He has that sense of urgency, and that excites me, because there's no doubt. I have a lot of respect for Wisconsin. I have a lot of respect for Ohio State. We haven't played in a national championship game since 2019. We need to compete at the national level, and I think Boom understands that. He wants to compete at a high level, and he has that sense of urgency. So those are the things that attracted us to him.
Mark, did you have other candidates you interviewed?
We did, yeah. We again, Randy, we had an opportunity to talk to a lot of people. Again, I don't want to overemphasize this, but Travis and his team did a wonderful job identifying candidates. We were in communication starting last Tuesday when the job opened up. We worked our way through the weekend, had conversations over the weekend with different candidates, and landed on Boom. And again, we're thrilled to have him here at our program.
Mark, Nadine Mozzarella was the obvious first choice, or an obvious candidate. When did you find out that she was staying at Ohio State?
Well, we had a chance. I had a chance to communicate with Nadine. I reached out to a lot of people in terms of getting counsel and advice on the opportunity, and I think I found out over the weekend that she had agreed to a contract according to their athletic director down there. So we talked to a lot of different people.
When you look at staying internally, Mark, how does that work by giving a team a new voice, a new leadership, yet he's been here for 3 years? How do you think that translates to the team and to the public on the outside and your fan base?
Yeah, no, a great question, Jim. Again, when what I like about Boom, when you look at his background, his involvement with the under-18 team at that level, the 6-0 gold medal this year, and what they worked through there, and we talked with people with the again USA Hockey and others, he does have a different perspective. And again, I have a lot of respect for Coach Frost. I've been here 10 years. I knew Brad when I was here before, when I worked in the athletic department before, and have a lot of respect for Brad. And we had a lot of conversations. I think if you talk to Boom, Jeff Scott next to you, and others, we have had a lot of conversations on what do we have to do to compete at the national level. And as I got to spend time with Boom and watch him over the past few years, again, he has that sense of urgency. I feel like when we hire coaches, when we're most successful, we hire coaches who have that sense of urgency, that competitiveness. And again, we compete in a very competitive conference, and we have a conference that those teams are winning national championships and we're not. And why is that happening? And so, again, I think Boone brings in a new perspective, a new voice. It's hard to believe we made a change, and I think we're ranked 4th or 5th in the country. But again, that shows you what the expectations are. And I can tell you when we talked to Boone about that, he didn't back away at all. His knees didn't buckle. So again, we're very confident that his voice will be great to lead this program, and we're very optimistic about competing at the national level.
One thing more just on Brad. In the press release, there were things on and off the ice that you wanted to change. Can you clarify what off the ice meant with Brad?
Again, in my words, just a sense of urgency. Again, I think, when you look at some of the other programs, and Boom talked about that, what was our identity? Again, we wear the block in. Are we competing? Every night when we play, we're going to get a team's best shot, those type of things. So when we talk about on and off the ice, I believe it is a total culture program. I think when you see teams that compete well academically, athletically, socially, really cool things happen. Our women's hockey program does that, but I just felt like we needed a new voice, new leadership to create that sense of urgency to help us get over the top. And again, I'm not allowed to talk about recruiting, but again, we're very excited about the classes we have lined up. I think we're going in a really, really good direction, and Boone was a big part of that. So again, I feel like we're taking the right step with him leading our program.
Mark, when did you see it going in the course, the course where you felt you had to make a change? What point of the season? Yeah,
well, again, I think if you visit with Brad and Boom talked about it too, I was very honest with the staff. We've had conversations for a couple of years now, and I would ask questions, about, hey, what do we have to do to compete at the next level in terms of, again, we haven't competed for a national championship since 2019. I think Ohio State just played in their 5th straight national championship game. Wisconsin, I think, I'm looking at Paul, just won their 5th national championship, 5 out of 7. We want to be there. We want to be in that conversation. So again, we've had conversations well over 18, 24 months about this in terms of we've got to see improvement, especially at the national level and competing for those national championships.
Mark, Boone's familiarity with this program, how beneficial can that be moving forward?
I think it can be helpful. Again, I think he talked about it, with his being here 3 years. And what I liked about him, when you look at his resume, and I think when we talked, and I forget, I don't mean to be dismissive, I can't remember who we were talking to, but they talked about he wins everywhere he's at. Right, and again, if you look at his background, he wins everywhere he's at in terms of that. So, what I like about his background is, again, he was here. He had a front row seat for a few years to watch what was happening. And again, as he said, we all do this when we work next to somebody, Dan. You pick up the good things, maybe things you would do differently. I think he has a fresh perspective on that, and I think he's going to give us a good advantage as we move forward.
Mark, why did you feel like you needed to make a move instead of just having a deeper conversation with Brad and just tell him, look, we need improvement here, here, and here?
Pat, I could not have been more clear with Brad.
Any more questions for Mark?
Mark, what stood out about Boone's answer when he said, we got to compete with Ohio State and Wisconsin? What stood out to his responses versus other people you interviewed?
Well, first off, he's incredibly competitive. I mean, he looks like he's 19, but what I love about him is he is incredibly competitive. And again, we talk all the time, we want to compete at the highest level. It can be done here at Minnesota, especially with our women's hockey program. And Travis, when we started this process, I talked to Travis, says, we've got to find somebody whose knees are not going to buckle. I mean, we respect everybody we play. They're all great, great programs, but there's no doubt that Wisconsin and Ohio State have separated themselves. And when we talked to Boom about that, his knees didn't buckle, and he talked about how he's competitive. And again, if you look at his track record, where he's coached at, what he's done, he wins. And he clearly understands that he's got to compete with all the programs in the WCHA, but we expect him to compete with Ohio State and Wisconsin at the highest level.
Sometimes you talked about when you let go of a coach, you have a folder that you turn to with names. Was Boom right there at the beginning, or is it something you learned about him during the process?
Well, no. Each year we update our list. We have 22 programs, and I think to be prepared, you've got to update your list each year. I actually had a chance to get to know Boom when he was with the men's hockey program a few years ago as our ops. He left us and took on a new opportunity. And I remember when he left, people were bummed out because he was a good person to have in the hallways and around the department and those type of things. So that was a name that was on our list, of course.